everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Integrative You Radio. You guys are so lucky today. We have Dr. Nick here.
The luckiest.
So we have survived a month and a half of a newborn, and we are happy to say that we are actually continuing our cadence of our podcast. With Quentin, who was our first, we were full year hiatus.
We've learned a lot in the past time frame.
Yep, that's for sure. So for those of you that have been following us for a while and you also follow us on social media, you may have seen one of our amazing case studies that we have posted recently. For those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, that is okay. So essentially, we were working with someone who came to us with very, very severe psoriasis. And we did our thing. We uncovered the root cause, which was a multitude of different things. And this individual had significant progress in 6 weeks and actual complete resolution of psoriasis, 30-year-long psoriasis in 12 weeks. And it was just so wild to watch how quickly this unfolded. And he's the one who initiated the photos. We don't really ask our clients to do that. We're just focused on getting them better. And he took photos of what he looked like before and then photos of after. And I remember we were doing his 12-week reevaluation, and he said, I go, how are things going? And he's like, it's like it never happened. And I was like, kind of like, okay. And then he sent the photos, and I was like, holy shit. That was my exact response. And so we had the opportunity to use this and showcase it on our social platforms. And it led to a series of inquiries and phone calls. And one of the things that I do is I will hop on our calls just to answer any clinical questions for potential new clients, but it's also because it's a dual interview process. We don't really take anyone because we know that we are looking for individuals and families that are aligned to who we are and what our company stands for. And we also want to make sure we are a fit for them and their expectations. So anyway, the whole moral of the story is that those phone calls and the conversations that unfolded really led to this podcast. And something that I found myself saying to certain individuals is based on where you are at, there is a strong probability that you will not get the same results as this individual in the case study. And they were pretty floored by me saying that. And I said, there are three major components to why this individual had such success in a short amount of time. And it was not because he was disciplined and an A student and did every little thing we told him to do.
I mean, he did the majority of things we told him to do, but like you said, that's not why he got the results that he did.
Yeah, because more recently, we had a similar situation that an individual, you know, followed everything we told them to do, did all of the therapies, was religious with the red light and the detox therapies that we had them doing at home, supplementation, and didn't yield the same type of results in 6 to 12 weeks. If anything, felt a bit frustrated with the process because they were kept getting stuck. And the biggest thing we want to bring to you guys is that it's not about going balls to the wall because we work with a lot of people from New York, New Jersey, and they have these strong personalities. They want to take the bull by the horns and they're like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And that's great. There is a level of discipline that will yield success in your health in a variety of areas of life. But there are other foundational components that are really what's going to lead to long-term outcomes, long-term success. It's like the idea of compounding on a strong foundation. And so, Nick, you can tell me if you one want to elaborate on these or you feel like there was other components. But to me, some of the three core things that led to this individual's success in his health outcomes was one, openness. He had a very open mind, open to all possibilities, open to even the idea that this might not work. He wasn't putting pressure on this has to work. He's just like, I'm here. I've definitely tried things. I am getting nowhere, and I am open to new ideas, new possibilities. I am open to the idea that this isn't even psoriasis, that this might be something fucking else. I don't know. I just am looking for direction and help, which leads to the second, which was trust. And I want to be very clear on what I mean by this. He relinquished control because people will say, no, I trust you. That's why I'm on this phone call with you. But they will not always relinquish control. They still need to be in control of aspects of their healing, and they don't surrender to the possibilities that maybe you're going to start supplements and maybe you're going to feel like shit. Maybe you're going to start a detox protocol and maybe you're going to gain a couple pounds because you're going to have all of this inflammation that's going to increase before it decreases. And you're relinquishing the idea that I'm going to control every little aspect of this and that I'm going to roll with the good and the bad and I'm going to trust in how you're guiding me and what you're telling me. The last one that I think is one of the most important is a vision beyond feeling better, a vision of being better, not just feeling better. This was an individual, we asked this question consistently on our getting acquainted calls. Why do you want to be better? I just want to feel better. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. I'm saying for us, it's not good enough to be the catalyst to healing. If you know how you're going to use your health, you're going to use your healthier brain, your healthier body, your healthier mind, that's where you're going to have more success. It's the vision beyond the vision. And he had a vision of who he was going to be for his family as a dad, as a husband, when he was better. And fucking awesome is I just talked to him the other day, and his wife actually chimed in and she said, I'm so emotional these days. I could get teary-eyed right now. But she's like, I was watching him in the pool because they went on a vacation together. And she's like, I realized that we would have been robbed of this experience, but because he's feeling better, he can move. He couldn't move because his skin would crack and he would bleed. And the fact that he's in the pool, not ashamed of his body, playing with our kids was one of the most amazing moments of my life. And that was really fucking cool to hear.
Yeah, it's I haven't heard that before. That's pretty awesome. Um, for him, say three things: the openness, the trust, and the vision beyond feeling better, but more just being better. And I don't disagree with any of those. It was, and I think it's probably for him, it was created in that order. I don't know if you said that specifically or not.
No.
Um, but we initially he came in with that openness, and that was what he had, which was amazing because most people when they come, they they want to get back to a point in their life of where they were, and that's always a downfall because
Yeah.
anytime that we go backwards to who we were, well, that was the start of who we became. So if you're trying to ever get back to where you were in life, it's always going to be a downfall because that was a part of creating who you are today. So he was open initially from the standpoint to what do I have to do? What do I have to be? What do I have to learn? Like he was just open, like you said, to everything. And through that, he didn't feel better. He became a different human being, which allowed him to change, which allowed him to feel better, which is a completely different scenario. So there's that openness, and then, how we explain everything, going through the psychosomatic aspects and connecting and challenging his old belief patterns that had been a part of creating that old version of himself that was creating that breakdown of the body to challenge him to see different and then to become that different human, allowed him to then have different experiences, like you said, going on vacation and being able to go in
Hmm.
a pool, probably chlorine that's not actually that great for your skin, but he was strong enough and resilient enough. Not that, he did things for his body, but he really understood that his body was just a tool for him to be able to feel how well his mind was doing, because it's your mind that dictates 99.9% dictates the expression of the body.
Hmm.
And it
Which
was,
is going to be an interesting story that we're going to get into momentarily. Nick doesn't even know where I'm going with this, by the way. We never talk before these podcasts.
no, and it works better
It's
than that.
real and raw.
And that was, it was all of that education, and even going through what some people would talk about, like the woo-woo aspects, but having it be able to be backed by science and understanding, to him, understanding how powerful the mind is. And once he understood that and had the tools to be able to utilize the mind in a better, more efficient way for himself, well, then the body was directed and responded accordingly. And
Mhm.
that actually was a part of building the trust. And then, like you talk about a vision beyond a vision, once we helped him see that, that's what connects with your spirit. And, we've all heard of body, mind, spirit, but your spirit guides the mind and the mind directs the body. And
Mhm.
it's the flow of energy above, down, inside out. So once we helped him really understand and how to connect with the three tools that we have to experience life, the spirit, the mind, and the body, and to use those tools efficiently to serve himself, well, then his quality of life just got better. And it
One
just
thing I
keeps
want
getting
to
better.
say about what you're describing that I think is really important, and it goes along with everything that we mentioned with the three keys to success, the openness, trust, and vision beyond the vision. But when we started to do the work with him, this is part of that relinquishing control. He was willing to be extremely, extremely vulnerable when we were helping to do the work around releasing things, past experiences, emotional adversities, traumas, if you want to call them that, that were experienced in the past that were a contributing factor to the first time that he had skin issues, which was literally as a small child. But he was not coming from a place of such significant guilt and shame that he was not willing to be vulnerable. He was willing to be vulnerable with experiences that he had that allowed him, again, this is going back to that openness. It was like, if this is going to help me, I'm willing to go there. And that's not something that we experience often. We've actually modified how we do our onboarding process, essentially the process where, we figure everything out, and we've modified that so that we could dig a bit deeper when it comes to experiences all the way down to childhood that could be contributing to the compounding of decreased health or health issues. And it's because sometimes, you see people hit a plateau, and people are not willing to relinquish that control, or they're not willing to be vulnerable enough based off of guilt and shame that they have from past experiences in order to break through that glass ceiling. And I do think that that was another factor in why he was able to elevate his mind so quickly because he broke the chains of the past through the work that we do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how deep you want me to get. As usual, I like to go deeper than people give an F about. Um, but the quantum part of life is, there's the past, there's the present, and there's the future, but they're all happening at the same time. So we're dictated by our past and our future. And a simple way to put it is like you were talked about, it's like you have to quote unquote heal the past. But healing the past, the funny part about it is there's really nothing to heal because the past was actually perfect. And once we can see it for being perfect, well, then we're actually just grateful for it because we've grown our awareness and changed our perception to not be a victim of it, but to know how to actually use it to serve ourselves. So there's not really anything to heal, which is the interesting part of everybody's trying to heal the past right now. And because that just means you're a victim. So that lets him,
You
quote
just
unquote,
fucking mic drop that real quick. We're gonna move
that
on.
that gave him the freedom to be able to move forward. But if you don't have clarity in the sense of direction, quote unquote, of your future, you're going to be dictated
You
by
live in
your
the past
environment.
then.
You're going to be
It's
dictated
yeah.
by the past, but also you're going to be dictated by your environment, the people
Yep.
around you, the space around you, everything, unless you have such a strong sense of direction of your future. And that's the
Hmm.
vision beyond the vision. So once he released himself from the shackles of the past and he actually gave himself a new foundation in the future, well, then he could just be present with himself and he could be present with his kids because he didn't have the fear, he didn't have the worry, wasn't
Hmm.
carrying like any of that shame or guilt. Like none of all of that is just a feedback mechanism that we're not grounded and authentic to who we truly are. But
It's
once
interesting this phrase saying that I just heard that is so congruent with what you're saying is stop fixing and start building. If we can spend a lifetime trying to fix ourselves or fix the past or fix and improve the old template, but sometimes you just need to burn the fucking template and build from the ground up. And I
I,
I say that just
everything's a half truth, yes.
yeah,
Um,
but I just for some people that will resonate really well and for some it won't. But sometimes when you just feel so fucking stuck and paralyzed by your past, like just understanding that, everything could change tomorrow if you choose that, if you say I'm fucking done being this, I'm done feeling sorry for myself, I'm done being the victim, just you don't always have to have this master plan and do fucking 25 inner child healings. Like sometimes you can just make a very bold choice in your life and start being that new version of yourself. So I'm not saying that's easy by any means.
all small growth is a balance of challenge and support. So it's never a one-sided view of, not working on the past and only working on the future, or only working on the future and not the past.
Yeah.
It's really just about getting both to a point where your past and your future are serving you, so you can just be here now in the present.
Yeah.
And that's what actually allows one to truly heal because that's when the only time you're truly present is when you're grateful.
Hmm.
And when you're grateful, that's that's when you're present with your kids. That's when the wife sees that everything's perfect and she has tears of gratitude to to seeing that there's absolutely nothing wrong with this path. This helped him become the best version of himself,
Yeah.
which is beautiful, which is why she had tears.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's where that's the goal in life.
Well, because we always want to ground this into reality, we want to be transparent about the fact that this individual got fan fucking tastic results. But we also have worked with another case of, it wasn't technically psoriasis, but it was extreme eczema. It was a young girl and she got no results. And we want to share this primarily because we're talking about how this individual, the vision beyond the vision, relinquishing control being a core factor, and the fact that he was able to free his mind, elevate his mind, which also played a role in his physical body healing. Don't get me wrong, we did a variety of physical types of therapies, detox therapies, and it was the two worlds coming together that yielded the results that it did. And so, with this individual that didn't get results, it was a young girl, so we definitely, there was a little bit of a struggle with being able to pull things out that were of value just because of the emotional maturity. But essentially what it came down to is, yes, there were physical components, yes, there was mold toxicity, yes, there was gut dysbiosis, there were all of those things. And those things, when it comes to our protocols, that's the easy part, to be honest. And then there was the mental emotional. And what was on the surface, she was struggling in school. She was struggling with being bullied. She was struggling to the point that they moved her to a different school because there were girls that were bullying her. She was getting into physical fights at school, etc. And so when we started to ask better questions, one of the things that she said, and it was very quick and very almost nonchalant, was, well, I'd rather have skin issues so that I'm the one who gets bullied as long as everyone leaves my brother and sister alone. And essentially, we say this, and this can sometimes trigger people, that sometimes our health is at a standstill and we're in poor health because we're using it. And some people are using poor health because it gets them love. They get a lot of attention, they get a lot of support because they are the sick one. Some people, they get some type of financial support because they are unable to work, they're unable to function. So sometimes there's those types of scenarios. But then there are other types of scenarios. There are infinite amounts of scenarios. And for this specific individual, she was creating a protection to her siblings. And she was essentially using her physical skin issues as a way to create a distraction from her brother and sister being bullied. And this was something that she was just not willing to work on. And mom and dad actually moved her multiple times to multiple different schools because she was consistently getting into fights and being bullied. And it was all because of her skin. So they were focused on the skin being the problem, but it was actually the mindset of this individual wanting to protect her brother and sister that was a contributor to the skin and obviously the external circumstances.
I'm not going to get deeper in that because it goes a lot deeper.
Share one level of deepness.
The foundation of the programs of children are, for the most part, developed by, the parents. More than that, there is the school system, depending on how young they're in. There's, religious systems, depending on how young they start. There's a lot of different systems. But it's more of the family system that's probably the biggest driver of belief systems for children. And it's not always the same belief system as the parents. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. But it's those drivers that either create, the value or the void, based on the perception of the child, and based on pain or pleasure of what's happening, um, within that one. But then there's the interesting aspect of looking at it through genetics. And, we had a conversation the other day is that, you know, you know, half of my gene, half of your gene are in our children. And, my dad, your dad, roughly a quarter of their genes are in our children. And when the way genes work is there's always a suppression repression. It's like, is that gene dormant or is it active, expressing itself? And sometimes there's that things are skipped, generationals, traits, etc., that we can actually physically map out looking at the genome. But a lot of those suppressions and activations is all based on the mental perception, because that's what actually goes through and creates that first um, actual energetic charge. And it's the charge that is either activating or making a gene dormant or not.
Hmm.
So it's the charge, but the charge is actually a mental charge, and that's based off of was this beneficial or was this, detrimental?
Yeah.
and and that is passed along generation to generation to generation. So part
Hmm.
of it is, how she was looking at and coming up as a victim, but getting deeper into it, there was actually more of a history, a lineage of that belief system coming into play for her to have the opportunity to actually heal generational shitty belief systems before her,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Well, it's interesting you say that too, because there was some level of skin issues in multiple generations from her mom to grandma, but nothing was severe. But there was that expression. And then obviously there is the behavioral expression generation to generation. So yes, that's the thing is, I think the way that the world and conventional medicine is looking at genetics is such a skewed perspective because it's essentially creating the idea that, bad genes, bad luck, or, bad genes, bad health. And really, it's all about the expression because things could be activated, things can be silenced. And that has so much to do with how you think and also your environment and what you put into your body. So there's a lot of variables that can put you back into the driver's seat of your health outcomes, regardless of your genome and the bad family genes, quote unquote. So what we want to kind of circle this back to is number one, there are those three foundational factors that you need to think about when it comes to why you might be stuck in your health or, why you're not making any progress with your health. You know, do you have an openness to the possibilities? Are you relinquishing control or are you still trying to control in some capacity? And is that control paralyzing you? And one of the big ones is, do you have a vision beyond less symptoms? Do you have a vision of being a better version of yourself with your new reclaimed, I don't even say either your new health or your reclaimed health? And, I think the final significant question is, what if your body's symptoms are actually serving you in some capacity at this time? Is it trying to tell you something? Is it trying to open your eyes to something? Is it trying to deliver a lesson to you? And, and it is healing really truly just about discipline? From the over 10 years that we've been doing this isn't about being the A student. This isn't necessarily just about I did all the supplements and I did the diet and I cut all the things out, because there are people that have done that and gotten no results or limited results. So this isn't about doing more. and you've probably heard us say this before, this isn't always about doing more. It's the same idea in business. Just because you do more or you hustle harder doesn't make you wealthier. Some of the wealthiest people in the world, it's because of how they think. And so, really, what it comes down to is how do you think about yourself? How do you think about your health? Why do you want to be well? Nick's pause.
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I don't know, got something brewing over there.
I mean, life is a feedback mechanism, I try to look objectively as possible because for the most part, what I do all day with people is deal with their subjectivity. And the only way around that is to be like a scientist and be truly objective. So the more objective we are, quote unquote, the more truth we have, the more information we have that's balanced on both sides of that spectrum. And when we can see everything is just a feedback mechanism, well, then nothing's really honestly like good or bad. It's just a feedback and saying, hey, is this working for me or is this not working for me? And if you weren't so attached to it, hence Buddha says all of our sufferings due to our attachments. If we weren't attached to it and we're just like, okay, I need to change this to get a different result, a different feeling. The feeling is just the effect from really our mindset. Um, but our thoughts. So if something's not working out, well, we need to change our thought, which dictates our actions, and our actions is what gives us the feeling. And then if that feeling's working out for us, let's continue and do more of that. If it's not working out for us, well, we need to go back up that river and figure out what thoughts are causing us um, suffering.
100%. All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this, and we want to just reiterate, true health is not about being perfect or being a perfect patient, being the A student. And this is really just leading with creating a relationship with a doctor practice team that you can have enough trust to relinquish that control. You have the vision that is bigger than resolution of symptoms and being open. And also that openness is about trying to remove some of the things that are creating fear, aka your Google searches and your WebMD searches.
Well, we're gonna end it there. That's a whole other
We're gonna
podcast.
end it there. But if you guys resonate with this and you are looking for a different healthcare experience, you know where to find us. Check us out. You'll have all of the links below. And we thank you guys for being here.